Hello and welcome to Story X Story, the podcast by My Matter that dives deep into stories across pop culture, plus gives you advice on creating your own. It's episode 202, and I'm your co-host / torturer, Nigel.
I am Tazziii, content creator, co-host, and victim.
We can go with that. I'll accept that. So no guest for this episode because we are wrapping up the year with our 2024 wrapped episode. So if you're new here, this is where Tazziii and I round off the year by giving our quote-unquote favourite stories of the quote-unquote year. And we'll explain those quotes in just a second. So yeah, we've been doing this. What's this? I'm going to say the third time. I think it's the third time. We've been doing this, and
Feels a lot longer than that.
It's the third time, but it feels like the 57th if you're Tazziii. So yeah, it's a different format for today. No deep dives here, but we will be diving into a bunch of categories. So it's kind of like it's not quite an award show. So this isn't the Game Awards, but it's not quite I don't know what this is. Well, it's our own thing. So we dive into different categories that celebrate our favorite stories of the year. So we have a bunch of different categories that we've honed over multiple recordings. They are our honourable mentions, which is we talk about our top 5 stories that didn't quite make the main top 5 list, but still deserve a recognition. We have biggest disappointment, biggest surprise. So disappointment is stories that didn't live up to our expectations for the year. Surprise, that unexpected gem that maybe caught us off guard in a positive way. We have favorite unfinished or ongoing stories. So a selection of stories that we're still in the middle or some distance in, but are still continuing. Then we have our top 5 favorite, the creme de la creme of the stories, unless you're Tazziii. So that's our main countdown of our favorite stories to us. And then we look forward to our most anticipated stories. So it can be hard to predict. And as we've looked back at previous ones, sometimes we just completely forget. But from the time of recording, what we're most looking forward to experiencing in the coming year. So there are some rules to this. So one of the things that is pretty cool about this episode is that all our picks are hidden, except maybe one. That was pretty obvious. So neither Tazziii nor I know what each other is going to pick. As we do with the rest of the podcast, the stories don't have to be newly released in this calendar year, just new to us. So you won't just hear stories that have come out in 2024. Here's some older ones as well. So we like to go across time and mediums as well. At least for our main top 5, we look to completed stories. So rolling credits on a film, on a game, or got to the last page of that book, finished that last episode. So a complete story has an ending as well. However, if we haven't finished the story, or we've got there's more to come for it, we do have the favorite ongoing / unfinished category. So we'll try and catch that as well. So that's the criteria that we are going with on this episode. So stick with us on this journey as we wrap up another year of storytelling. And you can subscribe to the Story X Story podcast wherever you get your podcast from. That includes Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also send us your feedback and questions in a number of ways. You can always send us a voice message on our Spotify for Podcasters page. You can email us studio77@mymatter.com. Or you can throw your thoughts at us on social media. And there are many platforms to choose from. So we are at My Matter on Twitter, at MyMatter TV on Instagram and TikTok, at Life of a W Gamer on Instagram and TikTok, and at Tazziii on everything else. We also have Blue Sky, mymatter.bsky.social, and I guess Tazziii.bsky.social. Although there's that whole kind of domain thing, so that might change. We're going to look into that.
Yes, that's going to change soon.
Yeah, so we'll figure that out, and then that will be in the notes proper. We also have a new website coming in 2025, which is not some far-flung date in the future. It is next month. It is just a handful of days away. So yeah, we're working on some new stuff for the brand that we're going to be talking about in the new year. You can still go to mymatter.com, and you can still join our Studio 77 Discord to be part of the My Matter community, but expect some changes, so bear with us as we work on all that. Both will look different over the coming months. So, yeah, before we get into this award ceremony kind of thing, let's find out what's happening in the My Matter universe. This is the last episode of the year. So we record the podcast from February to December. And yeah, it's the last day of the year. So last episode of the season. So we are about to go into a recording break. But if you haven't caught the other episodes, definitely go back in your podcast feed. We had episode 200. We've had our highlights and just a bunch of good storytelling discussions over the year. So check that out, all those highlights from season 6. So we have no new recordings over January, but then we'll be back for season 7 in February 2025. And over January, we'll still have stuff on the podcast feed. It will be rewind episodes from past live streams that you might have missed or are worth listening to again. So check that out, and then we'll see you again in the new year in February. Also, in the meantime, you can check out our comics. So we make comics. You may or may not know that, but we have a new comic, which is Origins Against All Odds. It is the latest comic in the My Matter universe, and it's one that features Tazzii's character in the My Matter universe. So it's quite meta in that sense. So it's a reflective, hope-filled manga about pursuing your creative career goals in the face of heavy resistance around you. And it's one that should hopefully resonate with anyone who's been or is going to be on that creative career journey. The highs and the lows as well. So looking forward to that. Thank you to the Kickstarter backers that made this possible. And thank you for your patience with the process of bringing this together. But it's hopefully will be worth it for those people that supported from the beginning. You can also get our other titles from the world's first manga network online today, or maybe some day because of website stuff. But we're not sure how the website's going to look by the time you're listening to this. But like I said, new website is coming. So you might know we do games stuff. You might not know the comics, but you know we do game stuff. We have the Do I Look Like a Gamer video game representation campaign. This is a yearly initiative to promote inclusion and diversity in the video games industry. So it's a yearly initiative, and it's about us building on the work we've done in the previous year and continuing that push for diversity in the games industry and wider culture. So each year we start with a snapshot of 40 players and makers as a way to showcase representation that does exist and inspire more of it in future generations of talent. By the time you listen to this, we'll be on the lookout for more people. So we typically do those photo shoots across February and March. And yeah, we're looking for not just people who are in games, people who want to be in games, people who just like playing and talking about games. So if that's you, if you feel more of you needs to be represented in games, then definitely check that out, looklikeagamer.com, and there'll be a link somewhere to submit your interest for that, and then we'll go through. And then, we go into events over the year. So we've had a bunch of events, just had our International Future Summit, which if you miss the Twitch live and the VOD, we'll also have it on our YouTube channel in segments, and then we'll also have the audio on the podcast feed. So you'll have chances to see it. So that's where we recapped the year of the campaign. Previous to that, we've also got our roundtable live stream recording on our YouTube channel. That's up now. We also do physical in-person events. So we've got our own events. We do our networking event, the Cupcake and Gamepad Social. We do the family game jam event. We make appearances at other events. So we've been to Comic-Con twice. I always feel like I forget a convention or something. I went to Develop, although that wasn't specifically for the campaign, but we're talking games anyway. Anything I've mentioned? Missed, Tazziii?
Have we been? It's hard to. Do you know what? I've just spent ages trying to remember what I've watched and read
for the
year.
Who knows?
And I've just realised that I have no concept of what was this year and what was any time period before this year.
It's just like some of this year and then grey.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that, because once we've got the new schedule in place for 2025, there'll be opportunities there to get involved, like I said, with the photo shoot, but also with the events that we do. So we'll have those announcements to come in 2025. And for this year, for 2024, we'd like to say thank you to Rocksteady Studios, who have been a sponsor for this year and just been a big help in helping us make sure these events, these activities are free to participate in. So we look forward to working with any companies in games, out games that want to support this initiative, get involved, connect with the community as well, and just help make the impact a bigger one. So again, if you're a company, if you're an organization and you're interested in supporting, reach out, looklikeagamer.com. We continue to do stuff on Twitch under the banner of Studio 77. So that's our digital platform where we play games for your amusement and host different shows with creative professionals from industries like comics, video games, animation as well. So we got the shows where we speak to people. We also talk to ourselves because apparently we just like talking. So we have the Studio 77 report. So we have Tazziii and myself recapping the latest Maya Matter announcements for that month. Event news, things are coming out. So we record that live on Twitch. So if you want to see us be a fly on the wall, want to see us put that together, see how the sausage is made, you can join us on Twitch. But then we put an edited version up on our YouTube channel. So you've got your choice there. We also have the Casual Conversations with Comic Creators show, where each month I talk to a different comic creator about the craft of making comics. So it's usually on the first Tuesday of each month, but that schedule does change. So the first one of 2025 will be on the 21st of January, and it will be with Liza N. Cooper, who I met randomly at Comic-Con, and we just got to chatting. I was like, you should be on our show, and that's pretty much our process. Actually, that's literally our process. So we're going to be chatting about that. She's got a new book coming out and had an interesting journey. I feel a lot of shared perspectives on like creativity and finding your calling. So I think that would be a good chat. And then we do games night. So each month we play games with our community. Could be new games, could be games we've been to previously and just really enjoyed. You have just missed our end of year games night, which has become just Gartic Phone. So that's always fun. And then for the new year, if you're a young aspiring creative professional or you know of one, then check out the Maya Matter Showrunners Work Experience Program. So this is something we started last year and are continuing to develop and build. It's about creating opportunities for young people aged 16 and up to work with our team across comic production, our events, and content creation. So we've had a bunch of people contribute to, again, our events, our comics, plans around like branding and marketing and the website. And it's just been good to be able to provide that opportunity for young people, but also for us to like learn from the next generation in that way and get that different perspective. So if you do want to take part, email us, showrunners@mayamatter.com, to find out more about that. So that's where we're at as we wrap up for this year. Now we're going to talk stories. So the rest of this episode is going to be stories. Like I said, we've got our top 5 coming. But before we dive into those main picks, let's shine a spotlight on some stories that deserve recognition, but just missed the cut. Or maybe they got the cut and then they were cut and then they were put back in. We got a weird process. So let's start with our honourable mentions. So these are our pick of 5 stories each that haven't quite made the top 5, but are worthy of mention in the countdown. How do we want to do this, Tazziii? Do you want to go first? Should I go first? We're going to alternate as well, but who wants to go first?
You go first.
Okay. All right, I'll take that first step. So let's see. All right, my first honorable mention is gonna go to an anime called Terminator Zero. It's a new story. So it premiered this year. But yeah, it's 8-episode series. It's set in Tokyo and it's about this guy, Malcolm Lee, who's developing an AI system that is intended to compete with Skynet. So this is like the day before Judgment Day. He finds himself and his children pursued by an unknown robot assassin and a mysterious soldier from another year, the future, 2022. So yeah, it's that Terminator vibe, that Terminator premise, but in anime and in Tokyo. And there was a review on IGN and I feel it summarized it really well. It basically said it's disarmingly good. I feel that's an accurate reflection of this show. It's yeah, it's really good. It's like I wasn't expecting too much because I haven't watched some of the recent ones. I've seen the first one, Terminator 2, which is arguably the best sequel ever, but haven't really dipped in yet because they haven't been at that level. But yeah, I took a chance, was recommended, and I feel worth the time I spent with it.
Cool. Sounds good. I'd like to just add a little disclaimer here.
There's a lot of disclaimers in this.
Yeah. All from me. Relevant for the rest of this podcast is that I have not included any isekais. I decided that I watch way too many to even include them in any of the categories.
It'll be unfair.
Yeah. At the risk of me just including isekais and not including anything else, even though there's so much great things. I'm not saying that would happen, but it just made it a lot easier for me to put things in if we made the rule of no isekais. So, with that, I am going to start with Agatha All Along as one of my honourable mentions. I think I really enjoyed it. I really loved that it was something that you could watch even if you haven't really seen the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Maybe you probably benefit from like watching WandaVision first, but that's it. Like, you don't need to have gone into, like, it really does stand sort of more on its own, and it's just a completely different feel and vibe from any other Marvel show or film. Yeah, and me being into all things witchy and tarot was like just thoroughly enjoying the kind of like power, because I love superhero stuff, but it's cool it coming from more of a like mystical side. And I do just think it was a generally like good storyline. You've got like predominantly female cast, but they're interesting. So good. So yeah, that's definitely it had to go on my list somewhere, and so it's appearing here.
So the process of elimination. Cool. All right. Well, we did it. We're on the way. We've made a selection.
One down.
Yeah.
What feels like 5,506 to go.
All right. On to the next honourable mention. And for me, the one that I wanted to mention next is a comic, Superman for All Seasons. So this is something we talked about earlier in the year in our story club with Vic DeLuca from Mega City Comics. And it's a 4-issue comic book series written by Jeff Loeb and illustrated by Tim Sale. So the backstory to this is that in the previous year, so it would have been 2023, I had a conversation with Vic and it was like, I don't find Superman interesting as a character. And he took some offense to that. So I said, all right, if you can find me a Superman story that would be interesting, we'll talk about it on the podcast, see if you can change my mind. And he suggested this one, so we all read it. And you know what? It's a good story. It's a good story, so I have to mention it. I have to mention it as I was interested in this Superman story, interested in the human journey. I feel that's what is really good about this. It takes the perspective of Clark Kent, a young Clark Kent, and it's almost like a coming of age story. But what's also interesting about this is that as well as exploring his journey from Smallville to Metropolis, the format of the comic, so it's 4-issue comic, but what we read was like all packed into one. But the format is like it's narrated by a different character who has an influence on Superman's life. So his dad, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, Lana Lang, and then it covers like, you know, in the title says all seasons, so each character is like a different season, and I just feel that's a really cool format. It's a really cool story, yeah, and I enjoyed it, so wanted to make sure we mention that as well.
I completely forgot we'd done that this year.
I actually did too. It's only a little while ago. I was like, oh yeah, that was this year. That was quite early, but it was in there. So that's my next honourable mention.
Cool. I'm going to do a game next. So my honourable mention for this next slot is The Gunk. I needed to get a game in here somewhere, and I'm not very good at finishing stories when it comes to games, but The Gunk was a nice, short, you play through the experience. I mean, I do want to play through it again, which is good that it's got replayability, but it is a contained, like, 5-6 hour story. 6-hour game, and I thought it was like so wholesome. It's basically about you find a planet that essentially is like polluted by something called the gunk. And so as you play through, you're learning about the character you're playing and her girlfriend, their story before they landed there, and like where their challenges are. And so they overcome some challenges throughout the story, but at the same time you're uncovering like what has happened on this planet that seems deserted, and you're just you're cleaning up and discovering the life that exists on that planet. And it's just very beautiful, and it's just like a really enjoyable story to play through. So yeah, had to mention the gunk.
Cool. Yeah, I can't remember when you mentioned it, but it was on, I guess it would have been, well, I can't remember if it was on this podcast or the live stream. It was the video game roundtable. That's why I was trying to, because it was the podcast, but the live stream that we did. Yeah, it sounded like a nice, digestible experience, which I always appreciate in anything, but especially games, because I also don't finish enough games. I don't play enough games, but I don't finish enough games. So that's good to highlight. All right, so we are down to the third honourable mention. So given that recommendation, my next one is actually a recommendation from Tazziii, and it's Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead. This is an adaptation of the manga, and it follows the protagonist, Akira, and he's this burnt out office worker doing the typical 9 to 5, and then a zombie apocalypse happens. And what was just so hilarious is that usually in films, in just stories, when that happens, that's when everything goes bad. But in this story, that's when everything is great, because he realizes he doesn't have to go to work that day. And that says so much about like the character, where they are, but just about life, which I feel there's a lot of people in that situation just looking for that reason just to get out of that that world, that cycle. So then from there, it's about him checking off, or he's actually making the bucket list as he goes, but he's also like checking things off, and then he's meeting other characters, and then it's all about just going for things in life, like goals, but not necessarily just like major goals, but just the important things, the meaningful things in life. And it's so cool to see the impact like he has on other people. So that it's always that perspective on like making the most out of life, and there's some, like, most of it's positive, but then there's some negative characters, and it's also interesting to see those interactions as well. And by the end, I remember thinking by the end of the last episode, I was like, all right, next one. I was like, oh, this has ended. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was ready to go like for the next one. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I'm glad you did watch that, because as I was watching it, I think from the first episode, I was like, yeah, Nigel will love this. Because that is, I think, arguably one of the best first episodes of a series. It's definitely up there.
So yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. It just, for an episode that says so much in and of itself, as well as what the show is about, it's just like pitch perfect.
Yeah. And so well done. I really love that show. It's really good. Cool. My next honourable mention then is Grownish, which is from the like universe of Blackish, one of 3 series in that universe, and it follows Zoe, the daughter of the family, going to uni and her challenges and mess ups and growth, and just follows her journey. And I really enjoyed it, and it's going in my honourable mentions because it then made me watch Blackish and Mixish, which I tried watching Blackish before and really struggled with it, but Grownish, like, immediately I was instantly instantly connected to the characters. And maybe that is to do with the fact that Zoe is like a very similar heritage to me, in terms of like both of her parents are, so I could kind of relate to her a lot more.
Yeah, because Blackish was known for that kind of social commentary from that from that perspective.
Yeah, exactly. So there is a lot of social commentary, and so much of it is just like seems to be coming back around. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I think one of the reasons why it's on my honourable mention is because it then opened me up to Blackish and Mixish, which now I get the tone. I thoroughly enjoy, and I'm picking up what's being put down.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think it just touches on so many and has like such like diverse viewpoints shown in it, which I think is important. But yeah, great show, great universe, I would say.
Cool. The Blackish cinematic universe in there. All right, what's this, the penultimate honorable mention. So my next one is sort of anime but sort of not, because I'm going to the theater, because we went to the theater earlier this year to see Your Lie in April, and there's a whole story behind this where unfortunately what we all felt was a great adaptation got cut short. And yeah, just really sad. But I mean, the story's sad as well, but also meaningful. So it's a very like poignant story about a young kid, Kosei. So he's a piano prodigy, and he actually loses his ability to like just play, to hear his own music after his mother's death, and his life like turns, I guess, kind of slowly, but eventually sort of turns as he meets like this violinist with a lot of spirit, Kaori. And even though he's seen as like this, he's got this talent, and everyone's like, you should be here, you should be in this competition, he's just not feeling it, and he's like breaking down, and he's really not like processed that the whole issues around his mother's death. And yeah, it's about his journey in that. And then there's a like building sort of love story in there as well. So I haven't watched the anime yet, but I was just like really taken with this, just because like the whole theater production, the production is really good, but the story itself, I feel I kind of resonated with that, sort of like losing a parent, and then you just feel like there's a space where like things just aren't as they were. So like seeing that journey through like music, and seeing how sort of everyone comes together and the relationships that he has, I was really connected with that story. And just a shame that it got cut short, but definitely appreciated being able to see it when we did.
Yeah, that was so good. So good. I didn't even think about including theatre. Oh, I'm so glad that you brought it up though. Yeah, because that was so good. I have watched the anime, and like it was just such a good adaptation of it. It's so gutted that its run got cut short.
Yeah,
because it was so good. Okay, so Akuma-kun is the one that I'm going to say before my final.
Some might call that the penultimate.
Yeah. Which was really fun. It was like so I watched the anime series based on a manga. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the like, it's kind of like mystery. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like an occult comedy, I guess. They basically investigate like bizarre cases, mysteries, but it's like a detective thingy, but there's like otherworldly stuff going on, and sort of like demon-like characters and magic, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought it was like I really liked how it was animated, and I really enjoyed the characters. Yeah, so that's my penultimate, I guess.
Cool. All right. I've not heard of that one before, so I've been introduced to something new, but that is why we do the podcast. So this is where, for my next one, I may upset Tazziii a little bit, because I'm going to have to talk about football. Not because I want to, because I have to, because my next honourable mention is Blue Lock, which is a fantastic series about basically Hunger Games, but with football. It is kind of a wild premise. So The idea is that Japan has just had a disastrous World Cup in 2018, and they're struggling to regroup. So some maniacal guy just puts together a plan where he's going to bring together the 300 of Japan's best youth players, specifically strikers. I think they're all strikers, and then put them through these trials to find the Ronaldo, the Messi of Japan. So it then centers on Isagi, and he's one of the players like drafted in. So he's not the best. So he's not coming in as like, I'm the best, but he wants to be the best. And he has to wrestle with, what does it mean to be in a team sport where you need to work with others? There's obviously multiple players on the team in a competition where only one is selected. And what does that mean to help others so we can all get better and progress, but then recognize that I need to progress and I need to do better. And that's such an interesting dynamic that takes place. So yeah, so it's going through trials, and then just from a perspective of a football fan, it's very detailed. And I wonder, because while I was watching it, I was like, I'm really enjoying this. But am I just enjoying this because it's football? But no, it is a good show. So seeing like just the different characters, their motivations for entering, their motivations for wanting to progress, how he changes, because I won't go into spoilers, but he changes as a character, and the way he views success and progression and achievement changes, and it's just so fascinating to watch that journey. And then it does the anime thing of like, you get to this level and you're cool, but then there's this level to get to, and then that, so it does that thing as well. So it's a nice combination for me. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so my last honourable mention is Ava Elementary, which is a mockumentary style comedy set in a elementary school. It's just so funny. I actually didn't realise, but so the Quinta Brinson, I think it's pronounced, who plays Janine, which is like the main character, it's actually her show.
I was in like, she's like producer, kind of writer.
So they have a team of writers, but yeah, it's like she produced it, like it's her idea, and I had no idea. So yeah, some really fun characters in there. There's one character called Ava who is just the incompetent principal. Not incompetent because she's not smart, incompetent purposely. Because she just doesn't want to do the work.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Got you.
So it's like purposeful incompetence, but it's just hilarious. It's that like awkward comedy, awkward mockumentary.
I do like that format.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
All right. Well, we did it. We got through the first segment with our honourable mentions. How you feeling?
Do you know what? Not too bad. I feel like there's things that I missed off mine you've picked up. So
I guess that's why the benefit of us both having independent lists, so we can fill the gaps where needed.
Yeah. So not every story is a winner. Sometimes there's something you are really excited about and it just doesn't live up to expectations. It just disappoints you. So let's talk about the story that just left us really disappointed this year. I'm going to ask Nigel, do you want to answer for me?
Yeah, I mean, we could do like a countdown and do it. I feel like we can.
Okay, cool.
All right, should we count down from 3?
Yeah, and say at the same time. Okay, cool. 3, 2, 1.
Borderlands. It had to be Borderlands. Now, I will say, I did for a moment debate going with Joker, just because I knew we would both pick Borderlands. So I feel, even though Borderlands is extremely disappointing, let's not forget that Joker 2 is also very, very, very disappointing as well. But Borderlands was just a mess.
You got a dishonorable mention in there.
Yeah, I did. Just Joker just catching strays.
I'm sure if I had seen the Joker, I'd be questioning that as well.
You would have. But why is Borderlands so so disappointing to you,
I
Tazzy?
mean, do you know what? Just go check out the episode on Borderlands that we done.
Which is a lot more interesting than the actual film.
Yeah, but it swung and it swung and it wasn't even in a baseball court. It was it was swinging in a swimming pool. Yeah.
That's definitely accurate. Like whatever it was doing, it was in the wrong place. Yeah, definitely check out that episode on Borderlands, because we go into it in quite a lot of detail. But it
was so easy to get right, and they managed to get it so wrong.
And I think for me, because as we talked about on the podcast episode, I haven't played much Borderlands. So I played some, enough to know what to expect and to have like some expectation. But what I was looking forward to is going into the cinema and having a video game IP that I didn't have too many expectations on, and just enjoying what was presented. And I couldn't even do that, because there was a point watching this film for me where I just mentally checked out, and I was like, oh, it's really bad. I'm actually out. And I even remember at the end of the film, when the credits rolling. So by this point, maybe like 2 other sets of people in there. And as the credits were rolling, I was looking around and no one was moving. And I don't know if people were waiting for like an after credit scene or something. I was like, I'm out. Like, what are people waiting for? Like, why are you waiting even a moment to leave this cinema
like, even if
right
there
now?
is an after credit scene, it is not worth it.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. So that baffled me. But yeah, so
I think this is one of the most disappointing films I have ever watched. It is up there with Ready Player One. Like that gap's not as big as it should be, because Ready Player One's a big disappointment for me. That's like catastrophe to storytelling in my eyes. So to be just mentioned next to something that makes my blood boil, and yeah, you're like, well done, Borderlands, for being that bad. Anyway, from disappointment to surprise, some of them they do the exact opposite to what Borderlands does, and that they like go beyond our expectations. So let's talk about the stories that have completely caught us off guard this year. Nigel, would you like to go first? Or
yes, no, actually, you go first, because I want to build up to what I want.
Okay. So my biggest surprise, and I really hope I didn't mention this because I sort of watched it towards the end of last year, is Summertime Rendering, an anime on Disney Plus. So I really wasn't expecting much from it. I was like, anime on Disney? That's not where you think to go and watch anime, right? It's not the first place you think. So I gave it a go, and as soon the first episode had me hooked. It has like a time mechanic that is so interesting, and I would say not like any other time mechanic that I have.
Yeah, it's quite novel.
Have experienced. Yeah, which is really nice. And it just how do you explain this without spoilers?
Ooh. So it's a guy who comes back for a funeral, because that happens in the first episode.
Yes, that's like.
And how do you explain this?
Returns. Okay, so he returns home for a funeral, but things are just not quite right. Things are not how. What's happening? Like there's undercurrents. There's something going on. There's something not right here, and that's it. The IMDb info on it is. Due to the death of his childhood friend, Shinpai returns to his native home, but beneath the surface, this island seems to hold some secrets. And that's literally all you can say without spoiling it. Each episode, there's like something new, unfolding and growing at the same time. It's predictable and unpredictable at the same time.
Yeah, it's one of those series I would one day like to write something like that with the time mechanic and the way. I mean, all stories you don't put them together linearly. You jump and you piece things together and you move things around. But I feel even more so with stories like this because you have to, like, this thing you saw in the first episode then has different meaning in episode 15, and you've got to really like map that out. And that's a challenge. I imagine that's a challenge to make it consistent and coherent and interesting and exciting. And yeah, that's must be a cool challenge to have put that together.
Yeah, it's a roller coaster of a story. Like it takes you through it. I feel like it's a story that you just have to be really present in the moment of that part of the story. So you've had some build up. What's your surprise pick?
So this might be the one I'm looking forward to talking about the most, actually, of all my picks, because I was genuinely surprised. So this originally started in my top 5. It went straight to somewhere in the top 5. And then when I thought about it, because I had Zom 100 in my surprise, but when I thought about it, I was like, I was genuinely surprised and taken unawares by this. So my surprise pick for this year is The Wild Robot, which is the animation from DreamWorks, released this year, and is just fantastic. I can't say its praises enough. And I remember seeing, because I don't often see too many trailers, but I saw a trailer of this and I didn't really think anything of it. So I was like, okay, this is something coming out. It's an animation, looks cool. I might see it, but also might not, either or. And then, so every so often I might just go to cinema because I've got a Cineworld card still. So I'll just go to cinema just to like take a break, just get out. So I thought, okay, cool, I've got some time. Let me just go and it's the middle of the day. I'll just go and catch this. So it's a story about a robot that is lost in transport and lands on this uninhabited forest island and has to essentially, so it's activated, so it's like a helper, some kind of helper robot. So it's activated and it's trying to like find its place. So it's trying to help because that's its programming, and it's got to eventually like adapt and all that stuff. But so that's how it starts. You see it get lost, and I was like, okay, this seems cool. Seems I kind of get what's happening. And then the emotion, and then all the emotional beats start hitting. So it's a story about this, just robot just adapting to this new life and really finding out what it's like to be human, almost, and not human because there's no humans in this, but just be human. And that journey is so well done and hits just the emotion. Like it's a very moving. I want to say specific things because you haven't seen it yet, Tazziii. Have you?
No, but I did see the trailer, and it was one. I can't remember what I watched in the cinema. And I saw the trailer, and I was like, I really want to watch this film. Like,
really want to watch this film.
It looks so wholesome.
It's so wholesome. It's so inspiring, like to me as well. And I need you to see it so I can say specific bits. I can't even say it after the podcast, so I'm gonna hold that. But there's certain lines that are just now in my head that just. Like I often translate things into like the entrepreneurial journey. It's not a film about that, but there's certain things about that a particular character on some journey, and some of the things that I said about the character, I'm just like that just hits. I'm going to remember that. I'm going to apply it to myself. I'm going to think about like young people like on this journey. I'm going to repeat these lines. It's just I was just like genuinely blown away. It's one that I will have to get on Blu-ray or something. I need to own this. Like I can't recommend it enough, and just a genuine surprise for me. It's definitely one of the most moving stories that I've watched in a while. So absolute surprise for me.
Okay, yeah. All right, I definitely need to watch it. Do you know what? It's so hard to keep up with everything. But I need to watch that one. So, on to the next category. Well, the ending of a story is important for our main list. The journeys matter too. So, we're going to talk about some of the stories that are unfinished that we can't wait to finish or continue. We could probably reel them off.
Okay.
But you can definitely go first.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, this category was where I did a bit of shifting because I forgot some stuff that was this year. I was like, oh, I need to put that in there. So let me just get to the first one, God of War, Ragnarok, Valhalla. Let's just, I don't think we're going to go another year without me talking about God of War. So started this, then I fell off for a second because I played something else because I wanted to give other games a chance. And then recently I came back to it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, you had your chance. We're back to God of War. So it's DLC for God of War Ragnarok, a free DLC and a roguelike game, which is kind of new to me. I don't typically gravitate to those sort of games. It's quite challenging, actually. I have not finished it, hence the ongoing. So we're going to get into that over the holidays. But yeah, I just love it. It's God of War, so say no more. My next one is Invincible season 2. So I started that this year and really enjoyed that. It's like a animated superhero series based on Robert Kirkman's comic book, but it's very much not for kids. This is an adult show, not just for the what is, to be fair, gratuitous violence in there, but very mature themes about what does it mean to have that level of power. I feel like this stage is probably doing a better job of the boys than the boys is at the moment.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's a whole other debate. Another anime, I've got quite a heavy anime influence in my lists this year, is Tokyo Revengers, which is, speaking of time mechanics, time traveling drama. So it's about a kid who goes back to save the life of his past girlfriend. So that's the premise of that. But it's interesting. It's an interesting examination of like male relationships and like friendships in what is like a gang turf war kind of situation. But it's really, it's actually quite surprising. Not as surprising as The Wild Robot, but definitely surprising in the way it's, dealing with those kind of relationships and what it means to be vulnerable, what it means to be like loyal and friends with people. A more straightforward one is One Piece. I was back on One Piece. So from however many years ago that I left that, I was convinced by a combination of Tazziii and watching the live action to get back in this. I am very behind. I'm on like, I don't know, 150 or something like that.
Well, you've got a, what is it now, like 4-month window to close that gap.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best binging, which isn't very fast, but yeah. So enjoying that, and the one that is just like the best anything animation is Arcane season 2, which I have started but not quite finished, and itself is an ongoing because we have spoken about that on the podcast. That would have been episode 98, so before we got to 100 episodes. And Arcane's just Arcane. Listen to that episode. We're going to talk about it next season. I will say that this is very good. it's very good, and it's this season emotionally is just doing some stuff like you might not be ready for this. It feels like season 1, like emotionally, is like primary colors. And season 2 is like the secondary colors. Not that anyone's better, but you need the primary colors to make the secondary colors, because the stuff that they're doing is just like, you put these two and then because of this happened, and it's it's messing with me.
That's a good way to describe it. Cool. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Maybe I'll try and watch Invincible as well. So, my ongoing surprise, One Piece. Just One Piece as a whole, just One Piece's existence is my ongoing.
Fair enough.
Because there's also the card game, and that's not a story, but they're dropping lots of new sets, keep coming out. So that's ongoing. Just One Piece. Anyway, 365 Days to the Wedding, which I recently started watching, which is, oh my God, it's so fun. It's just like a fun it's about two people that agree to get married but not out of love. It's just more of a business transaction, but does it stay that way? It's about a fake engagement, about two very, very awkward employees who are like the most awkward employees. So it's like their like anxiousness and like with interacting with each other, even though it's a faux engagement. Yeah, it's really, really funny, but it's a nice like workplace adult drama rom-com slice of life type show. So the court, I don't know what the series is called, but it's the Court series. This is a book, by the way. So I've been listening to the audiobooks for it. So I listened to Court of Thorn and Roses, which is the first one. Currently listen to A Court of Mist and Fury, which I believe is the second one. And then it's like a 5-book series, I think. Something like that. I'm intrigued. I'm like very interested in this going on. It's about, you follow a young woman, Feyre, who, oh God, she is annoying.
In a intentional way.
No, I don't think she's supposed to be annoying, but I find her very annoying. Like, she's not always annoying, but there's just points where she just gets a bit annoying. But it is a really good story. So it's about like the Fae and the humans have this wall that's dividing them after a great war, like hundreds of years ago. But things are changing. There's some challenging times ahead, and it's Feyre's like experience with the Fae and like the relationship between the humans and Fae, because it's a very it's not a great one. But it's like a fantasy novel. If you like fantasy, but you're really, really bored of like the main character just being this guy, then I would definitely give it a go. I think it has an age rating on it. It's not for kids. It's good, but I find Feyre really annoying. And then I've been watching Interior Chinatown. I was very like not quite sure what is going on with it, but in a good way. Like that's part of it. It's given me, you know, when you watch what's that film we done earlier in they cloned Tyrone.
Oh yeah.
Like it's got the vibes from that. Not they're not similar stories, but just I guess like the uncanniness of it, like the sensation while you're watching it that you get, like because of the So the description says background actor Willis Wu witnesses a crime in Chinatown while working on a TV show. As he investigates, he unravels a criminal web and experiences life in the spotlight. The life in the spotlight he had dreamed of. So it's got this like really interesting filming, how the filming is and how like, because colors change, and then there's bits where you're like, is this real life or is this a show? Like you don't know, like it's like where are things different? It's just shot really well. It's hilarious. It's obviously based in Chinatown, and just there's like just some funny scenes. It's just hilarious. It's so funny, even when you don't know what's going on. It's just funny. And it gets quite deep, and there's a lot of like question like what your place is in the world. A really good way of how you belong. Anyway, we're supposed to be like reeling these off, and I'm like probably going. And then Dan. It is good. The first couple of episodes, I was like, I don't get this. I think this is overhyped. And then I was like, okay, maybe. I feel like it is still very hyped because people acted like from episode 1, that's it, like you're locked in. And I didn't feel that. I was like, episode 1, yeah, this is a cool anime, great theme tune. But no, it's definitely interesting. It's a fun one, very well drawn. I love how the characters are just portrayed. It's so funny because I feel like it's very down to earth, but it's absolutely not down to earth at all.
Yeah, it's got a wild premise.
Yeah, but I think the characters feel real.
I like that crazy premise, but grounded characters.
Yeah, but definitely the Dan and Interior China, I would like highly recommend everyone watch.
Cool. All right, so those are the ongoing, unfinished. Now we're going to get into the final 5. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have reached the pinnacle of our 2024 storytelling journey. This is the moment you've all been waiting for, unless your name is Tazziii. It has been hours of storytelling, consumption, recording, editing, discussion across games, books, films, and series, animated, otherwise. I feel we've covered every kind of medium so far, which has been good. Yeah, we've done well. Yeah, we've experienced laughter, tears, highs, and the Borderlands. So here we are, but only 5 stories stood out above all the others. Again, unless your name is Tazziii.
Speak for yourself.
And they have caught our attention, caught our hearts, and we'll remember them for as long as it takes me to edit this episode by the end of the year. These aren't just the good stories, these are the favourites of our favourites, the ones that define the year. So come along with us as we count down our top 5 stories of 2024. And another disclaimer, this is the top 5 list. Unless you're Tazziii, then this is just a random list of assorted stories in no particular order. Why is this so hard? Side effects may include shortness of breath, sweaty palms, delayed reactions, indecisiveness, runner's elbow, and sailor's knot, whatever that is. Please consult your local physician if symptoms persist for longer than the 3 years that we've been doing this same episode. So, right, with that out of the way, just a reminder for this criteria. So again, Tazziii and myself will alternate. So we're going to count down from 5 to 1. We haven't seen each other's picks. We haven't seen any of the picks, but obviously common ground in Borderlands because... So stories can be from any medium, as you've seen. So there might be a mix, or there might not be. It might be a bit slanted. We don't know. We haven't seen it. And again, the stories don't necessarily have to be newly released this year, just new to us in this calendar year, or at least since we recorded the last one of this. And you can let us know what you think. So we'll put this out along with the episode. Might do some kind of graphic and put out a top 5. Let us know if you agree or not. If we missed something, we should have put something in that was in another category. Let us know. Give us a shout. So with that all being said, am I going to go first? Am I going to have to go first on this?
Of course you're going first.
Okay. I did force this on you, so let's do it. So, final 5. My number 5 is one I saw quite early in the year and actually forgot that I saw this year. But it is Godzilla -1. So this is a Japanese kaiju film set in post-World War II Japan. And it explores Godzilla's emergence in a nation recovering from war. So this is another shout from Victor Luca. I feel he's influenced my list. I didn't realize he'd influenced it so much, but probably in the same conversation where we were talking about Superman. But he basically said, you need to go see this. Now, I've seen some Godzilla films, by no means all of them, by no means an expert. But in my mind, I know the story. So I've seen one, seen them all. That was kind of my thing. But he was like, no, you need to see this one. This one is something different. So again, similar to Wild World, I was like, I've got some time. Let me go and catch this before it disappears from the cinema. And he was right. This is a really good film. And what was interesting to me, or what was like really, really attached me to the story and made it just sneak into this, is that it managed to, so 2 things. It managed to make a human story in amongst the kaiju-ness of what is a Godzilla story. And the special effects are effective. Like, there's a whole discussion about Marvel films and just the bad looking CGI. It looks practical. It looks like it's real. Obviously it's not real, but it looks like it's real. It looks like it's there. It adds to the story. It doesn't distract. But yeah, the story is about a kamikaze pilot who essentially avoids the kamikaze bit. So he flees from duty, and then Godzilla appears, and then sort of Godzilla-ness of it. But just that human story about someone who basically chickened out of his role and carries that guilt and everything. And I was very impressed that it managed to tell that human story in and amongst what is a Godzilla film. So just about snuck in there as my number 5 pick.
Okay, I still need to watch that because I remember Vic mentioning it on podcast recording. So
yeah, and it just occurred to me, Vic has also influenced one of my most anticipated. I have to let him know. He's like, basically, my picks are sponsored by Victor Luca.
Maybe we just need to get a segment on the show that's Vic's recommendations.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay, so am I doing my fifth?
This is your number 5 pick. Let's have it.
Okay. Right, yeah, it can be a number 5. My number 5 pick is What We Do in the Shadows.
You've mentioned this before, right? This rings a bell.
Yeah, I think I've probably mentioned it at some point on the...
yes, you have. Yeah, you have. I remember, yeah. This sounded interesting, but you tell us what it's about.
It's about vampires. So it's another mockumentary, but this one is about the everyday lives of 3 vampires while one of their familiars struggles with wanting to become a vampire and having to do all the running around for the vampires. And it's just funny. It's just so funny. It's got Matt Berry in it, who is just a very funny man, who has very British dry humor, I would say. So yeah, I think it does have just, oh my god. So there's 4 vampires, sorry. There's 3 traditional vampires and one...
And what's a traditional vampire in this world?
Blood-sucking, turns into a bat,
okay.
Can't stand in daylight vampire. You're very standard vamp. I would say the most popular version of a vampire. Somewhat charismatic, able to hypnotize and have speciality vampire powers, right? But then we've got an energy vampire as well. Called Colin Robinson, who that is
immediately funny.
It is hilarious, and they never refer to Colin Robinson as anything other than Colin it's full name or nothing. And there's a whole arc on Colin and where energy vampires come from and
That's
what
funny.
energy, and it is hilarious because they're vampires as well, and these are they talk as if they're amazing and they've conquered all of these things and they've done all these things in their time as a vampire, and they're all from various different points in time, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And so it's and some of them are a bit better at blending in to the human world than the others, but all obviously just terrible. And their familiar Gilmore is always having to clean up after them and essentially babysitting these vampires. And there's a lot of it's just so funny. I do recommend it as a watch, especially if you're into vampires and you're into mockumentaries, then this is the perfect blend of those things.
Definitely into mockumentaries, again, similar to time loop stories. A mockumentary is something I like to have a go at writing. They're always so funny.
I definitely recommend giving this a go. And I love just the interaction, because I think there's varying levels of mockumentaries, right, of how much you lean into the documentary side of it and how aware of the documenters are you.
Yeah
And the way that because you couldn't have a bunch of humans filming a bunch of vampires without some things coming up. And they do it so well. It's so funny. It's so there's just so many comical moments, and yeah, I'll probably rewatch it. And I really enjoy the theme tune. Every good mockumentary has a good theme tune. Yeah.
So, where's I forgot my list. So all right, we're on to number 4. It's getting quite tense. Are you feeling tense, Tazziii?
I've been feeling tense since we started recording the podcast.
Then it's working. That's how you know it's working. All right, so number 4, and I'm going to go back into the world of animation. Not anime, but animation. And one I almost shamefully almost forgot that I watched this year. X-Men 97. So this is also relatively new. I guess mine are more new than I thought. So this continues the story of the original X-Men the animated series from the 1990s, which was essentially my childhood. That and Spider-Man and Turtles was in the mix in there as well. And it even features voice actors from the original show, and pretty much maintains the art style and the tone of the, what I would say, and I think many would agree, the classic animated series. So the original X-Men, I felt, not necessarily at the time, I was just like a kid just watching it, but it was before its time. It was very mature, I feel like, for what the themes it was discussing. See, X-Men being that ongoing theme of like discrimination and dealing with that in society. And yeah, this just literally just picks up from where that all left off, both in terms of like events and themes. And I would admit, when I heard about this, I was excited but also worried. It's one of the rare times where I become one of those people who are like, you better not mess this up, because this actually means something to me. So I had a level of expectation. I knew, or unless they totally butchered it and just messed it up with like Borderlands, I knew the nostalgia would carry me through. So I could be honest with myself about that. Like, almost whatever happens, the nostalgia can carry me through. But this is a very good show, and I was so glad that they did a really good job with this. And they, like I said, they carried the art style, the tone, but then the impact of the episodes as well, both in terms of themes and events. It reminded me of, so I mentioned Invincible in my ongoing, and I always found Invincible such a meaningful show. It almost, and this is almost like damning with faint praise, but it almost feels like a live action show, like how real feels. And X-Men feels the same, just for a more age appropriate, like all ages audience, because Invincible, there's a certain age you can't show that to. But yeah, X-Men, I feel they knocked out of the park pretty much with this. And there's some sort of behind the scenes in terms of like the showrunner being like fired, and a whole ongoing thing there. So I'm now re-worried for the second season, but at least this first season, I feel they've done an amazing job with an amazing story that makes it to number 4 on my list.
Yeah, you've mentioned it a few times throughout the year, so I'm not surprised that it's on your list. Surprised that you forgot about it.
I was like, oh yeah, I watched that this year. I feel like anything pre-summer, or then it's just like memory hole. I don't know what that says about me.
No, I think it's just been that kind of a year. I don't think you're the only one there.
So yeah, number 4. Have a crack at that, Tazziii.
They cloned Tyrone.
That was also this year. That was this year. We did an episode on this.
We've done an episode on this, exactly. And I want to go back and watch it, because this was nearly my biggest surprise, because I wasn't even expecting this film to exist. Because I think, I hadn't heard of it before it was on the... Oh no, well, had I? No, I think I had seen it briefly, because this was on Netflix, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd seen it come up on my Netflix, and then you had added it to the schedule, and I was like, oh, good, yeah, that is one I want to... But I didn't know what to expect going into it.
Me neither.
And then I didn't know what to expect while watching it.
Yeah.
Which I think was so much of its charm. Because I think at the beginning you kind of think like, oh, okay, I know what kind of film this is going to be, and then it's like no, it's not that kind of film. Yeah. So it really did like if you don't know at all anything about what it is going into it, it really is the word subverts your expectations. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it was a really good sci-fi.
Yeah, sci-fi. Yeah, black sci-fi. What's the phrase I'm looking for? Blaxploitation. That's the word.
Yeah, and there was so much I loved about it. It really hit those points. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a very good film. Very well put together. Yeah, really good like camera work as well. Like.
Yeah, it's one of those. This is actually one that is reminding me. I'm glad that we both have separate lists because really, I would have liked this to be somewhere on my list. But with Double Team, we got it there because this is one every so often on the podcast. When I do the schedule, I'll throw in things that I'm not sure about, just because. Yeah, just see what happens. If nothing else, I feel we can have a good discussion about it. And this was one where just on the strength of the cast, like Jamie Foxx, John Boyega, and Teyonah Parris, I'm like, this must be good. This must be good. So let's give it a go. And yeah, it matched up.
Yeah, definitely. So you're number 3.
Yes. Oh, this is it's getting tense. Maybe it's getting a bit tense for me as well.
I'm starting to feel sick.
Right, my number 3 pick in our top 5 stories of 2024 it's quite a recent one actually. It's Blue Giant, which we spoke about a mere 2 episodes ago, for episode 200, and this is the anime adaptation of the jazz-themed manga series, which was turned into an anime in, I can't remember if it was late 2023 or very early 2024. So yeah, we watched it courtesy of All the Anime, who sent us copies of this film. And this was actually another one where I wasn't completely sure what to expect. I just knew, I saw the trailer looked quite compelling, and I knew it was something to do with like jazz music, and we had previously done an episode on Whiplash, so if nothing else I thought it would be a nice counter to that episode. So I didn't know what much to expect beyond that. This could have been a surprise as well, actually, because I was surprised how good it is, but also how meaningful it was to me to watch the journey of these characters. So there are 3 characters, Dai, Yukinori, and Shunji, and they come together through different ways to put together a jazz band called Jazz, with S's instead of Z's. And the whole idea is like Dai is the prodigy, Yukinori is the technical ability, but maybe needs a bit more humanity in him. And Shunji is just the amateur turned professional, the work, but he works hard to get to the level. And as we talked about in the episode, it's a very lean story. It's quite, I mean, I don't know if 2 hours is long anymore, but lean in terms of there's no subplot. It's just pretty much all about these characters. But the journey, again, I tend to view things through the entrepreneurial lens just because that's the life I'm living. But seeing this character have this goal, have some talent, but then also get to look at that from different lenses. So like I said, Dai's the prodigy, he's got the talent, he's a tenor saxophonist. But we see the technical ability. So Yukinori's practiced, he knows like technically, but maybe he's missing some of the improvisation in jazz, but then also again in life, in entrepreneurship. And then Shunji is like, again, I don't know this, I've just learned it and I'm trying to keep up with the people who are better, but I'm going to work really hard. And I like the way it included all those perspectives because they're all valid and they're all needed in some combination. And yeah, just the emotion, again, the emotion of the journey of these characters. This is another one, along with The Wild Robot, I think I need to get on Blu-ray and just watch on a regular basis and then just see that journey. So yeah, that's why it makes it into my, I guess, a relatively late entry to my top 3.
That makes sense. I'm glad you put that in there because I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't know where it fits. But I kind of was like, I'm sure Nigel will put this in. So.
Yeah, I got it. I was like, I had to. When I finished watching, I was like, you know what, this moved me more than I was expecting. This has to go in there.
Nice. Okay, so my number 3. So we're going anime. We're going food. We're going with Delicious in Dungeon.
Oh, I've been meaning to watch this. Tell me about it.
Delicious in Dungeon is an anime about some dungeon explorers who, for financial reasons, start eating the monsters in the dungeons to have to go into the dungeons for a very specific reason, which I won't mention, as to not spoil the premise too early. And it's basically this wholesome, it starts as like this wholesome adventure of them exploring different ways to cook monsters. And one of them is just very, very into the idea of eating monsters. And so the party's derived of like a human, an elf, a halfling, a human elf, halfling, and a dwarf. I feel like that's right. Anyway,
I mean, sounds right. Sounds dungeony.
Yeah, and then so obviously they have all like different skills and different things that they bring to the table. And some want to eat monsters less than others, but it's this. Yeah, it's so good. It's really wholesome, and it starts off quite slice of life-y, but in a dungeon. And then we start to get into like, as we get deeper into the dungeon, we get deeper into the story, the depths of the story. So yeah, that is just season 1. But favorite thing about this, at the end of season 1, was it at the end of season 1? I don't know, but at some point between me finishing this, it was like, yep, season 2 is coming. So it's been confirmed. It is not one to go on the lost shows list.
The potential future in memoriam category. So
yeah, but I highly recommend it, but I do recommend not watching this on an empty stomach, because as much as they are eating dungeon monsters, it does look very delicious. Delicious in Dungeon is a very good title for this show. It's so good. It's really good. The characters, again, just so on point. Very fun, well-written characters. It's definitely a good one. Okay, we're getting down to the wire.
Yes, down to the wire. The final 2 for each of us. And I'm going to go ahead with my number 2, which I feel is going to be another shared one. But unlike Borderlands, it's going to be the other side of the quality spectrum. So my shared one, that I also feel is going to be somewhere in Tazzii's, but we'll see, is Fallout, which is a TV adaptation of the post-apocalyptic video game franchise. So this was through Amazon Studios. Yeah, is a quality. I mean, this could have, maybe not a surprise, but, you know, with the whole, like, our video game adaptation's always good. We've mentioned Borderlands enough as being, that's a solid no. So there is a bit of that doubt sometimes. This was great. This was, because last year we talked about The Last of Us, and I was having a chat with someone at some event that escapes me at the moment, but I'm sure it'll come to me later. We were having a chat about someone who isn't necessarily into video games, but has seen both. And they were saying that The Last of Us, really good, and it feels like an adaptation of the game. So like it's like story. He said even though he hadn't played the game, he could feel like, oh, this is where there's something in the game that they've adapted. And that's the case. And it does it very well. It's great. It was on our lists. I think it was certainly on my list in terms of like top lists or honourable mentions. Whereas Fallout takes a slightly different direction. So partly because the source material is not such a tight narrative, I guess it gives them like wider scope. So what they've done is like taken the elements, the themes, the characters, and merged that into something that doesn't require deep knowledge of the games. I know because I don't have deep knowledge of the games, but can just be enjoyed as a quality show. And this is a great show, not a great show for a video game adaptation. This is a great show, and I was genuinely surprised at how good it is and the way that it's good. I'm not even sure what I mean by that, but it's different. It feels different. It doesn't feel like a video game adaptation. It just feels like something else. But whatever it feels like, it's a very high quality, well executed show. Yeah, I probably should say what it's. I mean, if you played Fallout, you know, but it's basically the this whole situation where once upon a time, because it's like an alternate reality thing going on, you have the aftermath of this like great war, so nuclear war. It sort of wipes out, like, this is based in America as well, and everyone has, or some factions of people have descended into these bunkers made by Vault-Tec, but there's other factions who maybe haven't been so lucky, and there's other factions that have gone into like a sort of, I don't know, religious sort of cult kind of technology cult kind of situation, and each of these groups are represented by like lead characters, and then we see how they interact, and we learn a lot of the world through their interactions, through their journeys. So yeah, it's very well done, and worthy of number 2. Could have been number 1, but I got something for that, so we'll see.
Do you know what? It's not on my list.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Though it is really good. I feel like I didn't put on my list because I'm like, there's more to it, and I don't want to put it here, and then I can never put it on my list ever again.
Strategic. Tazzii's being strategic, and you said you didn't like this process.
I've got to like figure out ways to cut things. Like I have to get really creative on like why something shouldn't be on my list.
That's fine. Okay, I'm not mad at that. Some strategic thinking there. I like it.
But I agree with you. Like this is a series that I'm so happy exists, because I'm someone that I'm not massively knowledgeable about the Fallout franchise, but it's one I've always been drawn to. But then whenever I play the games, I'm like, I don't necessarily enjoy playing the games that much. I get like a little bit from them, and then I kind of fall off. But I love the world. I love the world. I love watching other people play Fallout. And so for me, this is a great opportunity for me to experience the world of Fallout without playing the games. Because I did jump on Fallout 76 for a bit, and I was like, why am I not enjoying this? I want to enjoy this. I love the Fallout world. It's such a well-made world, and I do think the show just like done such a good job of like creating the Fallout world on screen.
Yeah.
Because we had K-Pow XD on for the podcast episode.
Yeah, episode 195.
Yeah, who is a massive Fallout fan. That was our expert for the show.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, and she was telling us how all the props and things was made
straight from the game.
Straight from the game files. So you can tell. You can tell the effect that has on that show. So I'm very glad that this is so high up on your list.
Cool. I'm here to serve, so we've got you covered.
Yeah, I can use it another year.
Strategic
on
thinking.
another season, yeah.
Okay. All right. So now I'm curious about what both of your remaining picks are. So yeah, give us your number 2 pick.
So my number 2 spot is Owaju, sorry, which is the animated science fiction. It's a Pan-African British-based entertainment company that made it. And
yeah, Kigali.
Yes, it is. I wish I had this animation as a kid. Oh, it's so good. And I had to put it here because it is in its own right a great story, an amazing story, amazing animation, but it also does something different that we don't get to see in the West. And that like Afrofuture that we just don't get to witness, and I really appreciate it. I think the only thing that is like it would be the Black Panther movies with Wakanda. Like that's it. That's all we had. But now we have Owaju, and yeah, it's so good. It's set in Nigeria, and yeah, it's just full of culture and color and food and fashion and tech. As someone who was a young girl very passionate about tech and loves things like Spy Kids, this is like, I'm so glad that this exists in the world so that when I hopefully have kids, they can watch this and they can feel like there's a place for them in tech.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, feel like they belong.
Yeah, and be inspired.
That's great to hear, because this is one I should have watched and I haven't. I was going to, and then I don't know what happened. Just there's a few things that just slipped. That Blue Eyed Samurai as well, but I'm glad to hear that because we have a tangential sort of connection to Kigali. As I do remember sort of being near or adjacent to them at comic conventions, and a couple of the team, and then out of what felt like nowhere, they said, we've got this Disney series and we're working with Disney, and it's coming in a couple years, or maybe 3 years at the time. I just be like, whoa, that's huge. That's like, you're working with Disney. It's like tell me how do you do that? But it's just great to see, like, or because I haven't seen it, but to hear it's great, and hear that it does what, I mean, not that I had any doubt that they would do something as that matches with what you're describing, but just great to hear it worked. You know, like, oh, okay, you're doing this Disney thing, and that's great, but is it going to be, like what you guys have been doing? And it sounds like it is true to that, and yeah, just great to see that.
It's great to see. I feel like it didn't get as much eyes on it as it should have, mainly because there was a lot of there's been a lot going on in the world this year, and I feel like at the time of its release there was a lot of stuff around boycotting Disney.
Yes, yeah.
And so I feel like that overshadowed such a great show, a great film. There is also a mobile game, cooking game, that I have yet to try, that I do want to dive into to go alongside it, because I love me some food.
That sounds good. I'll be on this in the new year, and yeah, just hopefully there's more of this, and just not every animation needs to look the same. There are other perspectives out there, and it also doesn't mean it's just for that audience. Anyway, we don't need to go into that rant right now. I'm sure we'll have enough time to do that in 2025, unfortunately, but also maybe that's why we're here. And Kigali, because we're doing amazing things, so that's really cool. That's cool to hear. All right, this is it.
Oh,
this is it.
God, yeah.
This is
Rats,
it.
I feel like everything's wrong.
We do.
Everything should be first place. We do. Can I just everything is number one.
Just one long line.
Yeah.
This episode is just going to be one unbroken sentence from Tazziii, and then credits. But no, that's not how we do it here. We break it down. We make Tazziii suffer.
I've been forced.
Like you
to
said,
pick
you are the
favorites.
victim.
This
So
is not my choice.
Yeah. This is Tazziii sweating right now, but we reached it. You're stuck with it. We're down to number one. So this is the most favorite of the favorite stories of 2024. Please see disclaimer for Tazziii, as already mentioned. So I will round off the picks with my number one, which is speaking of Disney Plus, it's a show called Shogun, which is, I guess, technically Stars FX, something that kind of within Disney. I watched it through Disney Plus anyway. This is my number one story, and this was, by the time I finished this sort of sat comfortably in number one. This is an incredible series. I spoke to, I'm on a WhatsApp group with some friends. Lau, my Meta co-founder, is in there as well, and another friend of ours mentioned this as well. And he said that it's one of his, I think he said his top five shows of all time. That's high praise, and I don't know if I'd put it there yet. I might need to digest that, but I can see I wouldn't disagree with that. I think it's such a well done show. So it's a historical drama series set in the Shogun age. It's actually an adaptation. So it's an adaptation of James Clavell's novel about an English navigator who becomes involved in Japanese feudal politics in the 1600s. And I feel there's so many reasons why this is number one. One of them I'll mention is that when I started watching it, I can, those shows that you can immediately feel the quality, the production value, obviously, but just the story, the way the story's been handled, you see it and you're like, I think this is going to be a good show. Now, obviously, you can mess it up from there, but they didn't. And what was good to see is that the protagonist, who is John Blackthorne, the navigator, so he's a white male, and he lands in, again, feudal Japan. So surrounded by Japanese people, and when I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, are they going to do the I don't know, The Last Samurai, but the white character goes to foreign land, becomes the best at whatever they're doing, and then takes over. Because I don't like that. I mean, you don't need to go into all of that, but there's like issues with that. What I saw is them respect that. So it's not that. It's very much I won't go into spoilers, but it's not that. And what it is he lands in a time in Japan where essentially the title shogun is vacant, and there's a lot of conflict around that title. Maybe people were claiming that title or maybe not. And it's just like interesting characters with different perspectives on that title and what it means to have this foreigner come and what he represents as well. It's handled with such respect, as far as I can tell. It is very much it's almost like Japanese language, so it's subtitled. It threw me off for a second because one of the main characters, John Blackthorne, is British, but he's speaking Portuguese, but the Portuguese is done in English and the Japanese is spoken Japanese and then subtitled. So it threw me off for a second because characters will be speaking in English, talking about how well another character is talking Portuguese. I'm like, wait, what? Do I suddenly know Portuguese? I missed that. But yeah, so that's a decision too. But then yeah, you get to see these different factions. One of the characters I just have to shout out is Lord Yoshi Toranaga, who is a key character and a warlord, and one of the 5 regents ruling Japan, and he's in this whole kind of feudal politics. But he's such a canny character. You know those characters who like, I've got a plan, and then but I'm not going to reveal all the parts of the plan yet, but I've got a plan, and you think you got me? Plan for that. No, so don't worry about that. I just love watching him maneuver. And then you've also got Mariko, who is a highborn woman with loyalty to Toranaga, but then she's got stuff that she's working through, and sort of there's a whole shame thing and everything. And the 3 of them as the main characters, just seeing their relationships develop is just absolute like epic. Just so well done, high quality from beginning to end. And like I said, when I finished it, it's like, yeah, this is the best story that I've consumed this year. So in number 1 it goes.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I need to watch that. I see it coming up and I'm like, is this good? Like, is it actually good? So it's good to hear that it is worth watching. So maybe I'll dive into that soon enough. Oh God, this is my time.
This is it. This is the spotlight. I'm passing the spotlight over back to you.
Weirdly enough, both of my top 2 involve a character being kidnapped.
Is that like, are you projecting right now? Tazzii's like top are like, help me please, like they're all different words in each of the title.
Yeah, it's like a code for something. No, so my number 1 is the Apothecary Diaries. And maybe I put this in too soon because maybe season 2 will be even better. But no, I had to because yeah, I think I've watched it twice already, 2 or 3 times already. I really enjoyed just the leading lady. So we follow a character called Momo, who's an apothecary, and she is kidnapped and forced to work in. I say forced. She's really very unbothered about it. Live and work in a court of the, not like castle essentially, but I forgot the word. So yeah, but she has this amazing apothecary talent and just a level of curiosity. Like she is obsessed. She is obsessed with like poisons to the point where she'll just eat them. And she's like, it's fine. She enjoys it. It's the one thing that gets her excited, and she's a very like just non-bothered by things. There's not many things that bother her or get her excited or get her upset, but apothecary stuff she's so into it, and she like just is constantly getting to the bottom of these mysteries, so quickly catches the attention of people within the court. Yeah, I don't know how to say much more without spoiling it.
Spoiling.
So that's it. I highly recommend it. Momo is just such a wonderful, wonderful character to follow, to get the pleasure of following the like complicated relationships that exist within in the world. It's very, very interesting, and there's a very, 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 very pretty man called Jinshi, which we have a lot of interaction with throughout the show, and how their relationship develops over the series and how they interact with each other is just like really interesting. And you know that there's constantly things to get to the bottom of in this. So you've got like the sort of like episodic instances that happen and something gets solved, but then there's the underlying like storyline which just kind of unravels, and there's just clues and hints as it's unraveling and pieces start to fall together, but there's still so much mystery in it. It's like unraveling a ball of yarn where you think you know.
It's like there's more to this than meets the eye.
Yeah, and it's very, very, very good.
Cool. I do remember you mentioned it on a recent episode, so all right, let's look out for that.
We've done it. I can breathe.
Yeah, you can. You can be released. You served your time admirably. That's a good list. It's a good list.
Yeah.
Nice mix. So that is our final 5, our favorite stories of the year 2024. Let us know what you think are the things that we should have watched. I definitely should have watched the Waju, and tell us what you think of our respective top 5s. You can always send us your feedback to studio77@mymatter.com, or jump in our Discord, let us know there, or even social media, however you want to get in touch. Let us know what you think of this year's top 5, or just any other picks as well.
As we wrap up our look back at 2024, let's turn our eyes to the future. I don't know why I said it like that.
Because it's the future.
Because it's the future, exactly. It's got to be said like that. That's how it's said. That's how future is said in the future. So we want to just highlight some of the things that we are most excited for experiencing in the coming year.
Fair enough. Do you want to go first?
No, you go first. I want to. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this is always a hard category, I feel, for both of us, because I feel neither of us are particularly like get super hyped over like, oh, this thing's coming and I can't wait, and I'm going to put the date in the calendar and build up anticipation. So the way I approach this is like things I'm genuinely interested to see, either for the piece itself, like the story itself, or what it represents. So that's how I've tried to come at it with my list. So I'll go through the 3 that I've got. So the first is maybe kind of a boring pick, but I'm genuinely intrigued, is Fantastic Four. The reason I say this is because I'm very interested to see, one, how Marvel integrate Fantastic Four and obviously in future X-Men, but then the context. So we are now at the stage, I feel we're at the full stage of their, maybe not hate, maybe it's not that strong, maybe in some corners it is, but the MCU sucks. It was good in the first 10 years. Now it's fallen off. And I don't buy that. Not that the recent films have been great. I recognize they have not. I feel they've got distracted by the television series, as I think we both felt they might do when it was all announced. But call me an optimist. I just, other than corporate greed, which is a real distraction, but I can't see how the creative, the team or the organization behind the first 10 years of the MCU don't have the talent and the resources to do something good going forward. And we know that from the comics, they've only like tapped the surface of what is available in the source material. So I'm looking forward to seeing if this is where Marvel, Disney get their stuff together and go, let's make really good films within the shared universe, but let's make really good films. And I've sort of discounted Captain America just because I feel, regardless, that's getting hate. Maybe call me a pessimist in that sense, but I just feel that's getting hate. But Fantastic Four might be the first where people might give it the fair shot to judge whether it's good or not. And I'm going to be intrigued to see if that happens. We said we'd reel these off, so I'll try and be quicker. And then next one is a video game, South of Midnight. So this is like an action adventure game set in the American South. It's coming on Xbox, so it's an Xbox Game Studios, and it draws heavily from like the South sort of Gothic folklore, has an interesting visual style, but also has a black female protagonist playable. And I just want these games to be good. I want this game to be good because it looks interesting in its own right. But, you know, we've seen a lot of just negative reactions to games that don't feature white male protagonists. And, you know, objectively, not all of them have been good. But then again, for certain audiences, that doesn't matter. So I'm looking forward to this just being a good game that no one can say anything unless you really want to highlight that I don't like playing as anything other than white male. So yeah, it looked hopeful to me. And then the last one is where I give another nod to Victor Luca for influencing my picks today. And it's Sakamoto Days, the anime. So I only found out about this like a week ago. So Sakamoto Days is a manga series. Notorious hitman gives up the life, opens a convenience store, gets married, gets fat, but hasn't lost a step. So when they come for him, he's ready. It's funny. It's great. I'm reading the manga. I'm enjoying that. So when I saw this anime, I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm genuinely anticipating just for the story itself, just to see how they've adapted it, how it holds up. And just, yeah, I'm definitely going to be watching that one. So those are my 3 anticipated for 2025.
Yeah, that sounds like a good. I love the whole like used to be like anything that's like there used to be like a gang leader or just or like a top spy or anything that involves being like very skilled and highly dangerous.
Yes, this is him.
To like everyday like house husband type like that's my favorite one of my favorite like things is like the switch from highly skilled and extremely dangerous to everyday dad or house husband or cool. Well, so I have a game that also is probably there because it just doesn't have the generic lead character. So my game is Intergalactic The Heretic Prophet, which is the game announced during the Game Awards by Naughty Dog. And it's set in like a cyberpunk space futuristic thing.
Yeah, but it's like a retro future. So it's like 80s aesthetic, but in a world where certain things have advanced beyond where we are now.
Yeah, so I'm very excited because Naughty Dog are very good at making games.
Yeah, they got a record.
They have a record, so even before as soon as this trailer started, I was locked in. I was like, what is this? And everything about it just tickled me in the right way. And so, and then I'm just like, do you know what? All the hate that I'm seeing has just fueled me to look forward to this even more. Yes. Because the fact that you're so mad.
I was going to say I'm surprised. I'm not surprised, but I'm just. I don't even know what the word is. Like, how do people have time for this?
Oh, so I'm excited. I'm excited to see where. I just imagine it's going to be like a great story. I think my one worry is that I'm sure they haven't done this, but that it will go down the like open world route that so many others do, and I feel like no, just give us what you do well. Yeah. Maybe add on some more stories as you go, but give us what you do well, because if you do, oh my god, this is gonna be such an amazing game.
The trailer was impressive.
Yeah. And I really love the look of the lead character.
Yeah, many people don't, but yeah.
Many people are wrong.
Yeah. There's a lot of like interesting cameos in there as well. It seems like quite a star-studded cast potentially.
Yeah, but that one's one that I'm anticipating, and then. This one's kind of cheating, but it's a story that you may have heard that is coming. It's called Origins Against All Odds.
That rings a bell. Rings a bell. Why does that ring a bell?
Which is a new story by Maya Mada, which is coming very...
I will allow this. I will allow this. This is not in the rules, but I will allow this.
Hey, there were no rules to say I couldn't put this here. And I genuinely am. Like, yeah. I personally know very little about this story, even though it is based on my character and inspired by my own story, which is probably why I am so anticipating for it.
Yeah, rightfully so. I think it's important because I would say like the way, because I always like trying to think about the best way to do stories. And I think with this one in particular, with this series, that's going to be based on the real people. As a story creator, I wanted some separation so it doesn't become, so no one can say like, you know, Tazziii, you just wrote your own story, because I feel that would undermine the story. And then also as the creative team and others that have worked on it, I also didn't want them to be too much like, what would Tazziii want? Would Tazziii be okay with this? So that kind of separation. So I feel my hope is that it gives it that integrity, even though it is your character on the front cover of that. Yeah. So it is your story, is inspired by that. But then we've got that kind of, that is a Maya Mada story, and it works on that level as well. So hopefully that has worked out. I guess you'll tell me, and people who read it will,
I'm very excited because there's a couple of things that you've said have made it in, of like things that I've told you that sort of happened on my journey, and I'm very excited to like see those like documented. Yeah. Like they're going to be in print, and I like it was actually a goal of mine. It was actually on a list of things, I guess, like bucket list thing, like things that I want in my lifetime, and one of them was be a character in a manga or a comic, and
there we go.
Here I am. Yeah. I'm not just in it, like it is me. It's me on the front. And it's, oh my god, Panali done such a good job at designing my character as well. So I do just see me when I look at that character. So good start. And then my it is actually my top anticipated, probably joint top, and it is another Kickstarter related thing as well. And it has just been, the Kickstarter just ended, and it was successfully kickstarted while we've been recording this podcast episode. So very excited, and it's called The Comic Shop, and I'll need to like send you a link to this, Nigel, because it's about a comic shop. It's a workplace mockumentary, so we've discussed plenty of those. Yeah. And so, you know, like, I'm a big fan. Nigel you said that you're a big fan of mockumentaries, and this is a comic book based in a comic book store, but it's a Black-owned comic book store, and the idea is that it's like it's representing Black people in a space that they've been classically underrepresented. And there's lots of different people working on this project, and so yeah, like I am genuinely very excited about it, because it's like I've mockumentaries. I love those kind of comedies. Love a good workplace comedy, and I'm very excited for it. I can't wait for it to get made. I hope it reaches some of the stretch goals. And this is a series. Yeah, so the Kickstarter was to fund season 1, and then they've got like several people like involved in the project, like several different directors. So it's Cheyenne Uwuli, I think that's how you pronounce her name, but is one of the leads. And then, so originally I found out about it on one of Alana Pierce's videos, because Alana will be directing an episode, and then I saw it shared through, I think, Cheyenne's Instagram, and then it's also got Fiona Nova, I think, is directing an episode as well. I think was formerly on like Rooster Teeth back in the day. And so, like, know her from that journey, and then just like lots of different pop culture people that are going to be involved. So I'm very, very excited.
Sounds interesting. I've never even come across this.
Yeah, I'll send you across the link. I kind of like last minute got the email. Like I liked it as I do on Kickstarter. Like, this is an interesting project, and then saw it again come up, clicked it, and I was like, I already like this. And then and I completely forgot about it. And then I got the email that was like 48 hours, and I was like, oh my god, I need to contribute. This needs to get made.
Oh wow, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, so very cool, very cool. I'm very obsessed with Kickstarter now.
Is I mean, I'm obviously biased, but is a great place for people to put their I say people like creators to put their ideas to just like out and build that audience. And I feel in a time where, you know, bigger publishers and distributors and all that are becoming more risk averse, it's like a space where people can experiment, find an audience, and improve themselves in that sense, and maybe even get those bigger connections if needed. But also, if not, if it just is of the people and it's the people who make it, then so be it. So yeah, I always appreciate Kickstarter for like being a place where we've been able to make our stories and seeing like people do it on another level, it looks like.
Yeah, definitely.
All
yeah,
right.
So that's been our year in stories.
Cool. All right. So yeah, we did a bit of looking forward. That's it. That's our picks. That's our categories. We made it. Tazzii's still alive, still breathing.
Just about.
Okay. That means if your victim is still alive at the end, I feel that's a good torture session, because then they can still tell you stuff. I don't know why I know so much about torture, but let's move on. As we wrap up our journey through season 6 and reflect, I want to thank everyone for listening. People who have listened, people who have spent time with us on the podcast. As you no doubt have been able to tell by now, we can talk, so we appreciate people spending their evenings with us on a regular basis. New people who have returned to the show. Yeah, listeners, and Tazziii as well as our co-host. It's always good to speak with Tazziii, chat about stories, get different perspectives. What's great is like Tazziii will come up with different perspectives that I haven't considered. So I always appreciate being able to get just different view on things, but also a valid, valuable view, not just like talking for talking's sake, but contributing like meaningfully to the story discussions. And yeah, anyone listening to this, because it is always a wild thing that you make something and then people consume it. And then even more so when I meet people in real life and then they say, hey, I've listened to your podcast and I enjoyed it. Still not over that. And that surprises me whenever it does happen. So yeah, thank you, everyone.
I always forget that people actually listen. Like,
yeah. Like, oh, you heard what I said. It's happened a couple of times. So Tazziii, any personal highlights from season 6, or like interviews, or is anything that's stood out to you other than the list of stories that we've just spoken about?
It's always so good. I don't think we've had a bad season. So it's definitely hard to pick out like a highlight, but I'm gonna say a highlight episode is probably the Borderlands episode. Because even though Borderlands itself was terrible, that was such a fun discussion. I think it's very rare to have an episode where everyone doesn't like the thing.
Everyone agrees this is terrible.
I feel like I normally take such a positive spin on things, which I still managed to find some positives.
To our surprise, to mine and Mark's surprise.
Yeah, but it definitely was like, no, but overall, yeah, I agree that this is bad. And it was just a very satisfying episode to record. And then I don't know. There's been episode 200 that we reached episode 200. I think
definitely a highlight.
That's a highlight. I don't know if this counts, but we kind of done like a live episode at Develop.
I was thinking that. That counts.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was definitely cool. That was my first time at Develop as well, and I think we had like just some really, really great conversations, and it gave us an opportunity to like connect with a different group as well. So yeah, I feel like there's stuff that I'm missing. There was just so much great
there's
advice
so
as
much,
well.
yeah.
Like, I really appreciated
yeah,
a lot
for
of
sure.
a lot of the advice that was given. Yeah, like just all of it, everything.
Yeah.
And it sounds like such a cop out answer, but when you enjoy making a podcast and you get to talk about so many great stories with so many great people, and we get to interview like different professionals as well and get everyone's like stories about like how they've got where they've got and what creativity, oh my god, the answers for like what creativity means to everyone. I just loved hearing like everyone's different take on it, and yeah, it would be pretty cool to like hear those like just back to back, like just hear all of everyone's answers, and maybe we can define creativity.
Yeah, so on a mission to define creativity.
It's been really great.
No, I agree. I think it's like the range. I might have said this last year, but just it's still valid. Just the range. I do like being able to go from. I mean, we started the year with like Gran Turismo, but then we talked about like Rye Lane.
Completely forgot that we done Gran Turismo.
That was
this year.
Right at the beginning. Yeah, we can go from things like that to like Rye Lane, They Clone Tyrone, but then talk about anime, live action as well, or animation. Covered Inside Out 2, which is another one I wanted to put on some list, but just squeaked out. So I do appreciate like the being able to talk about a variety of things and it not feeling weird, and that's good, because that was definitely the intention at the beginning, is not to get like boxed into like, oh, you only talk about manga because you make manga. So I didn't want that. So I'm glad that it's like borne out. But then, yeah, just a guest. I feel in today's world, and I don't know, just when I look at like some social media, it just becomes more and more true. Just being able to have a space where people can talk and listen and have a actual discussion with different perspectives, and it feels like that's becoming more of a premium the more I look at social media, which is not a whole amount, but it's enough to see that there are problems with people having discussions. So appreciate that. If nothing else, you can come here and have a chat.
Exactly. And I feel like it's a good opportunity to like discover stories that wouldn't necessarily watch, or just things that are like on your list, that, or at least that have been on my list, that I'm like, I really need to watch that, and then we're like doing a podcast episode on it, so it kind of like makes me watch it, or like even like revisit some things. And yeah, this is such a like important part of my year, the podcast.
No, it's cool. Anything you're hoping for, looking forward to as we look ahead to another season? What should I put in the schedule, basically?
I know, I need to like actually have a think about what we're doing stuff. I would really love, do you know what? There's one thing I would really want from the next season, and that is more listeners to send us in questions.
Yes.
And suggestions and things like that. I'd really love to hear more of what our listeners want to hear and what our listeners want to know. And what questions they have. You
hear so much from us, so we would also like to hear from you too.
Yeah, exactly. That would be great. So anyone wants to send in those questions and those inputs, even recommendations, if there's something you think we should watch, or read or play. Yeah, I love hearing about stories that I might not necessarily have spotted or I've missed,
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the only other thing for me, there's loads of other things, but one main thing is like, because we get to, like you said, speak to a range of guests from different industries at different levels as well. And I always like that approach of we speak to people who are maybe at the beginning, people who are, a few years in. And I think next year it'll be great to speak to people who are at the, when I say top, like in terms of like, I don't know, time served or just like profile or just like body of work. So that's something to work on in terms of like people who have been doing this a long time or have been recognized in sort of high profile ways, and just seeing how they got there, what their journey was like, what their story was like. So hopefully we can expand that range of guests. But yeah, like I said at the beginning, this is the final episode of 2024 and the end of season 6. We will soon have the season 7 schedule and titles. So you have that to look forward to. If you're a listener, if you're a potential guest, if you're someone that works in some of these creative industries, or you do something and you have a voice and you want to share, get in touch, because it's a fairly open door. We do like to get new voices in there, new perspectives. And like Tazziii said, I think one of the things that we would like to work on more is just better engagement with the listeners, with the community. So as we make these changes with the brand that I touched on at the beginning, we also want to find ways to bring people, bring the voices of our listeners. So whether it's through the Discord, whether it's through the in-person recordings that we do, because we've also been to Comic-Con as well as Develop and potentially some other places, definitely involve like the audience in what we do, and make it that two-way discussion. Because like I said, social media is a weird place sometimes, and I feel like it's not the best place always to have a long-form, meaningful debate, discussion with nuance, with context, and I'm glad that this is a place where as best as we can do that. So thank you everyone for coming on this journey with us. We hope to see you again in 2025. In the meantime, enjoy the new year. Hope you had a good Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas, or just a good time relaxing, because it's easier to get off work around this time. So that's a plus as well. But enjoy the new year. We will see you again soon. If you have enjoyed this episode of Story X Story, make sure you subscribe. Like I said, we've got a whole new season coming. And if you haven't already, give us a 5-star rating and review. Thank you to those who have actually done that. We're currently 5-star rated. So thank you for those who have done that, because all that helps. The more people that do that, the better our chances of reaching new listeners and fans of story discussion and just helping that discovery. Direct link sharing is great too. We are story creators. One of our stories is even most anticipated for 2025. So check that out and find out why. So you can discover our manga universe. We've got all our titles online. We are currently working through some changes in the website over the next month or so bear with us, but you can still go to mymatter.com. Eventually it will look very different, but still it'll be mymatter.com. Same with the Discord. You can join the Studio 77 Discord today. That's going to change, but you can reach us there, chat with others as well, tell us what you thought about today's selections and categories. And you can also prepare for next year's Do I Look Like a Gamer video game representation campaign. So again, we've come to the end of the 2024 campaign, but we will be ramping up again in 2025, starting with a call out for people to take part in the photo shoot for the 40 players and makers before we go into a launch in April, and then the rollout of events as well. So again, hoping to see people there, and thank you to everyone who has joined for events or seen us at other events and commented on how they've seen the campaign, because that's been a cool thing this year actually. But people I don't know saying, oh yeah, I saw that campaign, or I saw my friend in that, whatever it might be. Looking forward to doing more of that. As for the podcast, we will still be releasing new episodes over January. There'll be rewinds of previous live streams from the campaign, actually, and some of our other Studio 77 live streams. And then we'll be back in February for more episodes that include creator interviews, video game discussions, and deep dives into stories across pop culture. You can always give us a shout directly. Our email address is studio77@mymatter.com, and our website with links to subscribe is mymatter.com/storyxstory. So thank you for tuning in over the year. And until next time, stay safe, and remember, it wasn't that bad, was it? Take care, everyone.